Hello, guys, and welcome back to the Unfiltered Feed podcast. Uh, this is our second time shooting this episode. First time we couldn't due to a few urgent inconveniences, but of course you won't get to know them, so let's keep it a secret. So we're back
Yeah,
after a week-long hiatus, and we're back for the better. And I think we did miss a few important events, and that's why we are here. We'll be covering them and giving you a preview into what to look forward to in the upcoming week as well. So, hi Yash, and how was your week?
hi Ved. I'm good. This is a midweek special podcast for our viewers because, as you said, there's a lot to discuss. So I'm doing great. I actually have a lecture in 2 hours, but I think we have enough time
Mm.
till then. So let's make the most of it and let's start.
Yes, so I think we should straight away dive in and talk about, let us start with Formula One this week. We keep trying to mix and match the topics. So it's F1's turn to get the limelight. So I think after our uh, last episode, the British Grand Prix happened. We did a bit of a preview on that. So how did the race go and uh, what were your key takeaways?
Yeah, feels like a long time ago because it was actually almost a week and a half back that the race happened. It was quite an eventful race, as usual. The British GP is always very eventful. This year, it started off as a wet race. There was a lot of rain, and eventually it got moved to a dry race. So the drivers had to make an important decision of where to stop and change their tires for the slick tires. So that was the decisive phase of the race, and I think Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri and McLaren in general, they were dominant once again. They won the race by almost 26 seconds, if I'm not wrong. So that was quite a statement from them. But the most important highlight of the weekend was Nico Hülkenberg getting his first ever F1 podium. So I think he broke the streak of the longest wait ever until a podium. He's gotten to I think 329 races until he got his podium. So this was quite a wait for him. But yeah, very happy for him. He started in P19 as well, so it wasn't like he qualified good. He just got lucky and he made really good decisions about shifting to the right tire at the right point of time. So I think that was the biggest highlight for me. Lewis Hamilton also finally finished his streak of finishing on podium at the British Grand Prix. He's been on the podium ever since 2014 or 2013, if I'm not wrong. So that came to an end, unfortunately, with Ferrari. But he still finished in P4, so not that bad of a race for him. Uh, but yeah, another thing to highlight was that all the rookies really had a tough time out there. I think all of them literally DNF'd, if not they finished at the back of the grid. So it kind of exposed the lack of experience in them. But I think the race was pretty good. Not the most interesting race in terms of strategy because you knew what was going to happen. Your teams had to just follow one decision, and whoever made that decision, everyone else just followed it. But I think seeing the drivers struggle on track, trying to keep their cars on track on let's say tires that are not suitable for the weather conditions, that was a bit interesting to see. But yeah, I think it was an eventful race. Not the best one, but it was quite good.
Okay, and I think it was also the first race after many people watched F1 the movie, so it might have drawn more crowd than usual. And most of the
Yeah,
casuals, I think for them it would have been a first time experience. So speaking of F1 the movie, I think we have to mention that uh, I joined the list of viewers for the movie, and I went and watched it not in IMAX like you, but in a good theater. So I I feel like last time I wasn't that convinced with you saying that it, it's not a good movie for people who already are into F1 or who have knowledge of the basics. But after watching the movie, I think I am agreeing to you now because it most of the scenes were good, no doubt, but at times it was a bit unrealistic, as you mentioned, uh, them clearly and openly cheating and kind of it being glorified in the movie. So I didn't like that part a lot, and I think it wasn't a very realistic movie, let's put it that way. It was a good entertainer, and I think those who are new to the sport must have been impressed by it and surely would have watched the race. If you have watched the movie and you are new to F1, you surely would have watched the race. So kind of served the purpose, I think. But for the
Yeah,
hardcore fans and those who know the basics and are already into it, I think a bit of a skippable movie for me.
yeah, that's fair.
So
Because I think as F1 fans as well, most of them will eventually just end up watching it because it's a F1 movie and they don't want to miss out on it. But I think I would just repeat that if you're a F1 fan or if you know a lot about F1, just literally shut down your brain and watch the movie because none of it will make a lot of sense. So I think one comment from one of our shots last time did mention that it's a movie after all, so it has to be a bit unrealistic. And I completely agree because I was expecting it to be unrealistic when I went to the theater. But this was a bit too much even for me because the fact that they don't really portray F1 the way it is the issue. You know, if they did end up showing real F1 based events and if they did a bit extra, for example, let's say a safety car rule was breached, or let's say that they didn't really showcase how F1 tires work, or something like that, which is a bit more technical. That would have made sense, but they just showed that a driver who's 60 years old returns to the sport, starts cheating, and gets away with it. That's a bit too much, I feel.
yeah, and in a way, I just felt that it was F1 accepting that the original sport is not entertaining enough to make a movie and get pull in crowd, so they had to go this way. But I think still, if you are an F1 fan, keep your expectations low, and you'll still see yourself get disappointed at some point.
That's a fair
So I
assessment.
think, yeah. So we have talked enough about the movie, but we also had a movie like News Breakout, which was, of course, one of the legends and one of the more popular directors in F1, Christian Horner being sacked. So, what happened? What went wrong?
Yeah, first of all, you have proved once again that you're not as updated or not that big of an F1 fan because he was a team principal, not a director. But that's okay. I think you meant the same thing. But I think this was brewing with the background since 2023 because that was when the Red Bull founder, Dietrich Mateschitz, I'm not sure if I pronounced it correctly, but he passed away in the second half of 2023. And since then, the team has kind of crumbled, or there's been a lot of power divide and power struggle within the team. And there are mainly two parties to this. There's the Thai owners, the Uvidya family, if I'm not wrong. They owned 51% of Red Bull, uh, the parent company, as well as the Formula One team. And they supported Christian Horner, and rightfully so, because he joined the team right from its inception, and he's been there for almost 20 years, and he's done a good job because they've won a lot of titles. They've never really been a midfield team. They've always been fighting at the top. Even if they've not won championships, they've always won races in every year. And then there's on the other side the Austrian, the Red Bull GmbH or something like that. It's called. It's the Austrian side, and the head of that part is Oliver or Robert Mintzlaff, and he was extremely against Horner. And Max Verstappen and his camp was towards the Austrian side. They had their alliances over there, and Christian Horner was kind of left alone with the Thai owners. So this was happening since 2023. Even last year, if you remember, there was a controversy about Christian Horner, and the Austrian side were keen to get him out of the team, but
Mm.
the Thai owners, since they were the majority shareholders, they kind of had to convince the Austrian side to keep Horner. And now, according to a few rumors, what's happened is, uh, first of all, Red Bull's performance has dipped massively since last year. The second seat is literally doing nothing because if you remove Max Verstappen from the team and replace him with the second seat, so if you double the points of the second driver, Red Bull will be the last in the Constructors' Championship.
Oh.
So they are that terrible without Max Verstappen. So that obviously is a red flag. So that was one aspect of the pressure on Christian Horner. But secondly, the Thai side of owners, they lost 2% of their shareholding in Red Bull. So they became a 49% shareholder, and they
Mm.
lost their majority stake. And immediately, the Austrian side decided to fire Christian Horner. So that was a huge statement from them. So I think there are these two things. I don't know what is the main reason, but it's mainly these two things. So he's now gone. They just made a 1.5 minute video for him on YouTube thanking him, and that's it. They didn't speak. They didn't give the reasons to the media. They just said that we are firing Christian Horner. Christian Horner did give a speech in which he said that he's still employed by Red Bull, but he'll no longer be the team principal and CEO. And that is now being
Mm.
passed on to Laura Mekis. And if F1 enthusiasts may recall that he was the guy who was at Ferrari, and he was the strategy head of Ferrari in 2022, and that disastrous season actually saw him get fired from Ferrari. So he is now the CEO and team principal at Red Bull. So that's a big statement, and we'll now see what happens to the team. I don't think they're going to improve a lot this year, but for next year, I think this is a big move.
Yeah. I think I really didn't know any of the backstory, so it enlightened me. And I think the only thing I could think of was that uh, how bad the situation was that they sacked him mid-season because generally teams wait for the season to end, but maybe they are hopeful of Mackey's pulling something off and getting them back on track this season. So they thought it was
Yeah,
worth taking the risk mid-season. Or Horner and the relation with the Austrian side was really, really bad that they couldn't tolerate him anymore and or rather uh, got him sacked the first chance they got as
yeah.
the uh,
There's
Thai owners
also
lost their stake.
yeah, there's also a third angle to this, and this is the most fascinating to me. But at the same time, there's a lot of speculation, so I'm not really sure if it's even true. Uh, it's not a secret that Max Verstappen's father, Jos Verstappen, hates Christian Horner because he was the one in 2024 who was keen on getting Horner removed. He would openly say in the public or in the media that if Christian Horner stays at Red Bull, the team will just crumble and die. And that was kind of true because the issue with Christian Horner was that being the CEO, his vision was to have complete control over literally every single department in the team. So he wanted the absolute power, the absolute command over every single division. And this is what the Austrian side, as well as Max Verstappen and his team, they didn't really like, which is why eventually a lot of Red Bull's key figures, such as Adrian Newey and uh, I think their strategy head, if I'm not wrong, they all left the team and they moved to Aston Martin and Audi respectively. So there was already a bit of senior personnel leaving the team, and then Jos Verstappen was continuously putting pressure on Christian Horner. So now there was a speculation that it was kind of, it is still widely uh, fluctuating in the media that it's Max Verstappen and his team that wanted Christian Horner to leave if they wanted Verstappen to stay at Red Bull. So this sacking of Christian Horner and being mid-season, it's basically a guarantee to Max Verstappen that okay, we have fired Horner, now you have to stay with us, and you are the main decision maker now. Or the second side to this is that Red Bull have already lost Verstappen to Mercedes, and now they're putting all the blame on Christian Horner because it's under his leadership that Verstappen has left. So now they're sacking him,
Oh,
and they want to kind of start a new. They want to start from a new beginning and have new drivers and a new leadership and just re reform this team from the basics. So these are the two sides of it. I'm not sure if this is even true because we don't know whether Verstappen is staying or not, but this is really fascinating as well.
yeah, it is mm, surely one of the more interesting F1 news. Surely not the last interesting news of the week, but
Yeah.
we'll keep you updated with how this story unfolds. And what about the upcoming race? When is it? And what should we look forward to in that?
Yeah, so the upcoming race is in Spa in Belgium, and it's happening on the next Sunday. So I think we are right now at the midpoint of the break between the two races. So it's the right time to talk about this. And I think for the rest of the year, it's just going to be interesting to see which McLaren driver wins the championship. Because I will admit it, maybe after the first 8, 9 races this year, I was convinced that Oscar Piastri was going to dominate and win the championship very easily. But since then, Lando Norris has fought back. He's had two wins, and in both races he did really well. Of course, in Great Britain, Piastri got a penalty which was quite controversial, but Lando Norris was still there to pick up the pieces and he won. And now he's only 8 points behind Piastri. And since McLaren are so ahead in the Constructors' Championship, it's almost a guarantee that they're going to win it. They don't have any reason to intervene and apply any driver orders or team orders. So they can let Norris and Piastri fight on track and decide for themselves who's going to win the title. So I'm really excited to look at that. And the second positive thing for me is that Ferrari are finally bringing a few upgrades to the car, and they have finally started to understand how their car behaves because Hamilton has had two P4s in the last two races. Leclerc had a podium in Austria. So I think Ferrari will be back to being the second quickest car this year, or maybe even match McLaren. But it's now too late. But I think for a Ferrari fan in me, it would be nice to see
Hmm.
Ferrari win at least a few races this year. So these are the two things that I'm looking forward to.
So it's going to be an interesting weekend, and I think more on track than off track, hopefully. But the off track news is
Yeah.
also very intriguing.
I think for the
So,
off track, it's just where Max Verstappen will go because there are rumors saying that Toto Wolff and Verstappen have already met and they've signed a contract and they're waiting for the Dutch Grand Prix to announce it. So I think that's a bit more for the future, but immediately I think on track action is going to be more interesting.
Yeah. So that was about the British Grand Prix,
Yeah.
and that was not the only event happening in Great Britain last week. We also had Wimbledon, the championships Wimbledon, and uh, the women's final was quite underwhelming, to be honest. But it was a good story, but not a game worthy of a final. So let me quickly break it down. Uh, Anisimova, who reached the final by upsetting uh, Sabalenka, who was one of the favorites, and she played against Iga Swiatek, who was also one of the favorites, but honestly, no one gave her a chance in front of Sabalenka, but doors opened up for her when Anisimova reached the finals by beating Sabalenka in the semis. And then what happened was, I think, one of the very rare score lines in a final. At least the first time I've seen such a scoreline. It was 6-0, 6-0. Basically, a absolute drubbing of a defeat for Anisimova. And I think she would
Yeah.
have rather seen herself bow out in the semis to Sabalenka than lose the finals in that way. I think Swiatek was too good. I did catch a bit of the that match, and whatever I saw, Swiatek was absolutely flawless.
Yeah. I think the final didn't even last for an hour. So that tells you how one-sided it was.
And I think during the celebrations, I did catch the commentators saying this will last longer than the match and just having a chuckle. So even the commentators are really dialed into the fact that it was a one-sided final. And
Yeah.
of course, on the other hand, we had the men's final, which was Yannick Sinner versus Carlos Alcaraz, and surely not the last time we are seeing that rivalry take place. Though I myself would have loved Joko to win, but it's a very personal choice, and I think at the moment it's a very unpopular opinion because everyone I see around me and most of the people online just don't want Djokovic to win anymore. They're kind of fed up or they don't want him to, uh, I think, overtake Federer and Nadal's legacy in a way. I think that's the impression I get. But of course, Alcaraz and Sinner are too good, and I don't think the gap between Joko and Sinner Alcaraz is going to shorten anytime soon. It's only going to get wider and wider. So it's a bit of a statement performance from Sinner in the semis, where he got past Joko in 3 sets, basically. No sweat broken. And the final was very good. I didn't catch much of that. I was busy watching the uh, another sport, which we'll get to. But what did you make of the final?
Yeah, I think Djokovic is now at a very similar stage to where Federer was in 2018, 2019, where he would always reach the semi-final pretty easily, but then he wouldn't make past the semi-final. So it's very sad to see. Uh, I was never a Djokovic fan, but I do like when he wins, especially when there's no Federer or Nadal. But I think, as you said, Sinner and Alcaraz were just too good, and they are, I think, easily the two best players for the next few years to come. So very excited to see how their rivalry goes on for the next few years. I didn't see the match, the final match. I just saw the last few games where it was mainly after Sinner had already broken Alcaraz. So he just was trying to hold his serve. and whenever it was Alcaraz's serve, he was just playing and letting Alcaraz get that game. So he was pretty relaxed. The only funny thing was when Sinner had 3 match points. I think that was the exact same situation in the French Cup final where it was Sinner leading 2 sets to one with 3 match points, and that's when Alcaraz came back and he ended up winning the French Open. So that was a that was a
Flashbacks
really
for Sinner.
yeah very creepy moment. But this time Sinner didn't lose and he managed to close the game and he won it pretty convincingly. So it was nice to see. And if I'm not wrong, this was his first win against Alcaraz in their last 6 meetings. So it was important in
Oh,
that sense as well that Sinner did come back at Alcaraz and keep keep this rivalry alive for the next few years to come.
yeah, surely it's going to be the kind of a rivalry that defines tennis in the next few years. Both
Yeah.
very young and at the top of their games. And we saw the kind of matches they can produce, like the Roland Garros final.
I
So,
also have a
uh,
really interesting fact for you if you're open to it. And this is a
yeah,
fact that will
sure.
make you go mad. So this was, if I'm not wrong, the first time ever that none of the big three or the big four, so you have Djokovic, Federer, Murray, and Nadal. So none of the big four made it to the Wimbledon final for the first time since 2003. And Sinner is born in 2001 and Alcaraz is born in 2003. So for Alcaraz, it was the first time in his lifetime that he has not seen one of the big four in the Wimbledon final.
That is quite a fact. And considering Nadal in the later years of his career, he wasn't really competitive at the Wimbledon. And Joko, I think he's the one who's been carrying this legacy for the last few years. And
Yeah.
he too bowed out in the semis. So quite an interesting one. So I think we have two options here. You can either continue with sports or move to tech and then come back for a remaining couple of sports news again.
I think it's only fair to give you the moment to shine now. So I think we should keep our foot in England and talk about the third sport that you, I think, gave a hint about while we were talking about tennis. So it's all yours now.
Exactly my thoughts. So let us now talk about cricket. Of course, when we move to cricket, there's never just one game to talk about or just one event. But we'll talk about the first one, which was the major game, India versus England, the third test. And even after trying my level best to not get disappointed, it has happened again. Uh, it, the Lord's Test, I think it was one of the best games in recent memory, but it's only good when your team wins it. And it's very, very a tough pill to take when you're on the losing side. To just summarize it for a few people who might not have seen the match, England batted first and scored 387. I think Bumrah took a fifer, nothing new. Uh, then India batted, and I think, yeah, India too scored 387. So after first innings, there was nothing to separate the two teams. And for India, who scored? I think
KL Rahul scored a
Rahul,
century.
yeah, KL Rahul scored 100 and he ran Rishabh Pant out on 74. And what many believe to be the turning point of the game. Basically, India had a golden chance to get at least a 50 to 60 run lead, and knowing that batting gets difficult at Lords, I think they really should have taken the chances, especially after having already squandered a few chances previously and having seen how the matches turned. I think they should have been a bit more responsible, but yet again they lost the last four wickets for 11 runs and collapsed to take a lead of 0 runs. And then England batted and scored 192 and they were bowled out for 192 and there was a bit of a heated discussion, heated argument in the middle. Shubman Gill all fired up, and the entire team really, really good. I think they were very good on the field, uh, and they bowled well as well. But 192 proved to be a few runs too many, and I think it was a real repeat dose of Lord's 2018. And we have seen the recent example was Wankhede 2024 versus New Zealand, where we couldn't chase 147 in the fourth innings. So 192, I think even Cape Town 2018, where we had a similar 220-ish run target, which we couldn't chase. And they are heartbreaking losses. But the only thing that happened for me this week was it made me respect the GABA win even more because it really stands out as an anomaly now as India keep playing more matches and keep losing more matches in the fourth innings while chasing even the modest of totals. And it also increased my respect for baseball and like whatever you call it, but they do have been consistently chasing big scores. So you really have to admire. It takes a lot mentally as well for the players to get the number out of their heads and just bat freely like they did in the first test. And you saw how difficult it actually is.
Yeah, I actually had a few questions for you. So the first question is, do you think Jasprit Bumrah is the curse? Because whenever he's played, we have lost. And the one match where he wasn't playing, we won it pretty convincingly, I think. And the second question is, again, in the fourth innings, do you think, I think this is similar to the first test, where do you think India lost the game by playing bad cricket, or was the pitch really difficult, or were the England bowlers too good for our batters?
Uh, Coming to your first question first, I think it's just a mere coincidence because Bumrah is Bumrah and you can't really uh, put the blame on him that whenever he plays, we lose. I've seen a few comments online, and I think even a couple of experts uh, making those comments, which was really sad to see. I won't name them, of course, but Bumrah, he did not play the second game, and we won. But it's not because he didn't play that we won.
Yeah.
Uh, our bowlers stepped up, which, to be honest, they did even in this match. But our batters really didn't take the advantage of being settled in there. When you have played a few balls and you know the conditions, you have to maximize it, which we yet again couldn't do. Uh, and I think he will continue to win us games in the future. Just a couple of games. I think in Australia he single-handedly made India look competitive in that series. So if you look at stats blindly, you'll come to know that Ravichandran Ashwin has more runs in test wins than Sunil Gavaskar. So if you want to look at stats in that way, you can make up stats, but the reality is those who watch them play know how good they are. So that was to answer your first question. And secondly, I think this was a bit more, you have to give a bit more credit to England this time than the last. I think especially Ben Stokes, we keep hearing a lot of hype. Most of it is unwarranted about Ben Stokes, but this time he really deserves it because I think with a problematic knee, he on the last day came in and bowled a 10 over spell and took half an hour off and bowled another 9 over spell because he knew that he was getting the most help from the surface and he was troubling the batters the most. So he took it upon himself and bowled almost one third of the overs on day five, which is quite a remarkable feat for someone whose feet are not really healthy. So he did an incredible job and he also batted well, scored a couple of, I think a 40 and a 30, and then picked 5 wickets in the match. So a man of the
Yeah,
match performance right there. And yeah, England keep delivering test pitches that are producing cracker games one after the other.
yeah, that's for sure. I think all three games this in this series have been really good for one reason or the other. So that's, I think, a really good job that the England Cricket Board are doing. So yeah, I think to close this discussion, the last question that I had for you is, if you are Gautam Gambhir, what will you tell the Indian team, especially the batting unit? And secondly, do you make any changes, especially with the batting at the top? For example, Karun Nair. What is your take on him?
Yeah, I think Karun Nair, as the series has progressed, he has looked better and better with each game, but and also you can't now blame the management if they decide to drop him because 3 games is good enough and
Yeah,
he got plenty of chances to prove himself. At least one big score would have been good. Uh, but if I was Gambhir, I think I would personally just told the boys, well played, take them out for dinner maybe, and just uh, give them assurance that this is going to be the same team for the next game because that's what
okay.
you need. And I think if we had played this game again, India would have won 8 out of 10 times. It was such a close game and it was a very, India were very close to getting past England. So I think I would rather give the boys some confidence rather than trying to break it up and try and get back to a new combination. And if at all I had to make a change, I think I would include a fourth pacer because the next test is in Manchester and it is known to be a paradise for pacers. So if at all you had to play 4 pacers anywhere, I think this would be the pitch and maybe you could rest. If not play 4 pacers, then rest Mohammad Siraj at least. He's played all 3 tests and he's given his absolute best. So if you are planning to play Bumrah, then you could give Siraj rest so that when Bumrah takes rest, Siraj is there and you don't have two new bowlers together because I don't think they'll go back to Prasid now. Even if they have to make a change, it will be Arshdeep. So best time to get him in, it will be in the next test.
That's fair. So, do you want to discuss about a few other important moments in cricket? I heard there's big
Yeah,
news coming from the World T20 2026 and also uh, the Australia versus West Indies tour. So, you have any
yeah.
updates?
So there is quite a lot to cover, but we'll stick to the major moments of the past week. And one of them surely was, as you mentioned, the T20 World Cup qualifiers. We just saw the conclusion of the European qualifiers, and it was an absolute shock because Italy qualified for the World Cup, and it just sounds so weird to say that. And I think. I don't remember the last time Italy played in the FIFA World Cup. So that surely is a I think hopefully we look back in the past and say 2026 was the year when it all pivoted for Italian sports. And because what I read was even more interesting, AC Milan, one of their famous football teams, actually started out as a cricket club and then they
Oh,
pivoted to football. So they could make the complete circle and get back to cricket. You never know.
yeah.
So that is very shocking. And the second team is, of course, Netherlands. Scotland missed out after losing to Italy and Jersey on consecutive days and just crashed out. And before that, they were favorites after defeating Netherlands. They were at the top of the table almost and pretty much pretty much guaranteed to qualify. uh, Considering that Italy and Jersey has their two games. Anyone with a brain, working brain would have said that Scotland are through. And that's what I did. I to
Yeah.
rule them through only for me to see them lose to Italy and Jersey. And Jersey at one stage were also in the reckoning to qualify. Had Italy defeated Netherlands, it would have been Italy and Jersey qualifying from Europe, which would have surely been one of the most revolutionizing moments in European cricket. But as it is, it still is with Italy qualifying. And moving on to the other part of the world, still cricket, uh, West Indies cricket, which has been falling through a bottomless pit pretty much in the last 24 months or so. And I think we have reached the bottom of the pit finally, as they were bowled out for 27 by Australia. The game pretty much flowed in the same pattern as the first test. We are being honest. Australia batted first, put up a mediocre 250 total. West Indies were trailing by 50, and then Australia batted and were bowled out for 150 or something. So the target was 200, 204 if I'm not wrong. And to be honest, it is very much gettable, 204. But then Stark happened, and in his 100th test, with the ping ball in his hand, he picked up 3 wickets in the first over itself in the fourth innings, and then went on to take a six-over and completed his 400 test wickets as well, which put him in the league of Glenn McGrath, Wasim Akram, Nathan Lyon, Shane
Not
Warne.
not Shoaib Akhtar, right?
Absolutely not. Those are for another day.
I think
And
to wrap
then
up,
just to
yeah.
yeah, to wrap up the game, Scott Boland took a hat trick and finished it
Oh
off.
yeah,
So
that's true.
that's how that match ended. And just uh, as a post-mortem of the game, Cricket West Indies appointed Viv Richards, Brian Lara, and I think one more. I don't remember. Three of their best batters to come and guide the young batters. So I don't know how that will help, but interesting. They're taking some responsibility and trying to take some action.
Yeah, that was really shocking when I saw the uh, scorecard on Cricinfo. There were so many ducks, I'm sorry. At least 4 to 5 ducks in that innings, so that was really strange. I think to wrap up cricket, I have one important and a funny update from the MLC because Mumbai Indians, their franchise, they have they have managed to win it again, and they have I think, maintained their record of being unbeaten in the final, except for the first time, which was in 2010. Since then, an MI owned franchise has never lost a final, which is simply
Like,
unbelievable. And especially in this tournament, when they were playing the best team who had won, if I'm not wrong, 7 or 8 of their 10 games in the league stage, and New York, MI New York had won only 3, and they still end up beating all the other teams and end up winning the title, which is absolutely funny. And this is exactly what I was hoping to happen in the IPL, where MI had finished fourth, and the hope was that they start beating all the teams one by one and they win the IPL. But MLC saw that, but it's still good, and it was a pretty shocking result, and I was so happy to see it.
yeah, it was, but it just made the format look a bit clownish, in my opinion. Because if a team that lost 7 out of 10 games can go on to still win the tournament, it is really absurd to
Yeah,
hear that. I think MLC needs to modify their qualification rules and get more towards the WPL format. I think we discussed it last week as well because you have 6 teams and you don't surely don't want more than half of them qualifying. It
yeah.
doesn't make any sense. Ideally, you would want the top two to just directly play the final, but if you want some knockout cricket, have 2 versus 3 play and the winner plays the top team. So I think it was right there for them to apply, and still they went with the IPL route. So I don't know why, and I don't think it will change as well, considering how incompetent the uh, league owners are. I don't see that changing anytime soon.
All right. So now I have a question for you. We need to wrap this up in around 15 minutes. So, do you want to talk about the Samsung Unpacked event or a few football updates? And to be honest, football has quite a lot of updates. So, that would also be interesting.
I think I would like to just touch upon the Samsung event in a couple of minutes, and then we can move to football.
Okay. So, you can maybe start talking about Samsung. Did you follow the event? And have you
Yeah,
looked at the new phones?
yeah. So, uh, for those who didn't, I did. They launched the Fold 7, Flip 7, and the Flip 7 FE. Those were the 3 phones, and they launched the Watch 8 as well. I don't know how the phones and the watch are a generation apart. I thought they would fix it, but they didn't. Uh, so we did talk last week that the Fold has to have a few major upgrades and they should have some innovation there because they're getting a bit stagnant, and that's exactly what they did. It was their biggest ever upgrade since the original Fold, if I'm not wrong. Uh, so just to summarize, they made the Fold 7 at least half the thickness of the previous phones, and in just one generation, it's gone from being one of the thickest to one of the thinnest foldables, which is quite impressive. And they have gone away from the under display camera inside to hole punch again, which is good. They finally admitted that that tech is not ready, which is a bit weird, but at least they are providing a better camera, which is good for the consumer. And the aspect ratio as well is a bit more uh, leaning towards normal phones rather than a weird aspect ratio where the video doesn't look too good. So I think that's another good change. So those were a few upgrades to the Fold. And Flip, I think, is more or less a similar phone, but what I liked was they introduced a Flip FE, and hopefully they continue it because I think uh, we have seen them in the past discontinuing cheaper alternatives. So I hope this continues. So basically, it is a Flip 6. The Flip 7 FE is
Yeah.
a Flip 6 with a inferior chip. I think they have Exynos chips on that, uh, which they are promising will perform well. And it reminds me in a way of uh, kind of a strategy to, if I had to put it, like multiple products catering to multiple price brackets from the same company, so that the consumer's mindset changes from should I buy a folding phone to should I buy a Samsung folding phone? Take it the other way.
That was
Uh,
that was Ved showing or Ved pretending to be a business expert. But I think that's quite true because they're making the flip phones accessible to a lot more people by making it cheaper. So people can at least start using a flip FE and then maybe if they like it, can upgrade. So that's quite
yeah,
a interesting move from Samsung.
yeah. So what I wanted to say was, by widening the price range in which you can buy a foldable, they have kind of trying to get the mindset from should I buy a folding phone to which folding phone should I buy? So there's a difference there, and
Yeah.
that is how you convert customers. So I think that's a strategy I liked, and hopefully it will work because foldables are what Samsung have heavily invested in, and if it doesn't succeed, I think it will really be a bad look for them. And
Are
then
you,
lastly,
would you buy a foldable if you had the budget to do so? Do you think it's the right time to invest in one now?
I honestly feel no, because I will consider it as a success when I can buy one foldable phone which will satisfy my needs for both a phone and a tablet. Because right now the Fold 7 when opened is still not big enough for me to replace my tablet. But if they make it big enough, then when I close it, it will not be a phone. So there needs to be maybe something similar to what you Huawei did with the
Yeah,
trifold. So in its closed position, it is still a phone, but it opens up to a 10-inch tablet at least, which is quite good.
yeah.
So those were the phones. And talking about the watch, they launched three versions: Watch 8, Watch 8 Classic, and Watch 8
Ultra, I think
uh,
so.
Ultra. So nothing much to speak over there, just that the shape has been now made into a squircle-like shape, circle in a square. So not a big fan of that, but it's at least unique if that's what they wanted to do. And I think we will try and talk about it later when we have tested it. Uh, or we have seen others test it because just from the event, I don't think I'll be able to give my judgment.
So
So that
now,
was about Samsung.
yeah, I think we still have some time. So let's dive into football. And there's a really huge news, especially for Barcelona fans, that came out today, I think a few hours back. And now it's official that Lamine Yamal is going to wear the number 10 jersey for Barcelona. He was wearing the
Oh,
number 19 jersey for all these years. And Ansu Fati, if you know, Ansu Fati had the number 10 jersey, but he's now gone on loan, if I'm not wrong, to a different club. It might be Atletico, if I'm not wrong. I'm not sure. But now that clears up the number 10 jersey, and Lamine Jamal has gotten it, and he'll start wearing it from this season. So that's a major update from Barcelona. Uh, and the main things that I wanted to share about was the Club World Cup, where Chelsea managed to win the Club World Cup. That was a big surprise because they were playing PSG, who had beaten Real Madrid 4-0 in the semi-final. And mind you, this was a full strength Real Madrid team. It's not that they were missing out on a few players. So on merit, PSG had beaten Madrid, and PSG are also the current European champions. So going into the final, I
Mm.
was expecting a complete whitewash from PSG, but it ended up being the exact opposite because I think Chelsea won it 3-0. So they absolutely
Oh,
destroyed PSG in the final. So that was really
yeah.
strange to watch.
I I did see the trophy celebration and I caught hold of Mr. President in there. He
Yeah.
was also celebrating with Chelsea, which is funny. Yeah.
Yeah, and the second important update or the important set of updates that I wanted to share was the major transfers this year because it's a bit strange this year because most of the long-term partnerships are coming to an end. The biggest of those is Mr. Modric. Luka Modric is leaving
Mm.
Real Madrid after all these years. If I'm not wrong, he's won 4 or 5 Champions Leagues with them, and he holds the record for the most
Mm.
trophies, or one of the players to have the most trophies with a single club. And he's leaving Madrid and is going to AC Milan, which is quite an interesting
Mm.
transfer. I'm sure he's doing this to prepare for the World Cup, which is happening in less than a year's time now. Similarly, you have Kevin De Bruyne, who's leaving Manchester City. He's, I think, City's best players of all time. He's been absolutely
Mm.
crucial for their success and their 4 Premier League trophies in a row that they won, I think, starting in 2019. Uh, so he moves from City to Napoli. So it's again going to be a blue jersey for him. And yesterday I saw that he did get the number 10 jersey there. So that will be interesting to see him wear the number 10. And he'll play with his teammate on the national side with uh, Lukaku. So it's going to be interesting to see both of them reunite and play at Napoli. The next big update was from Cristiano Ronaldo because I think a couple of months ago there was a video that was surfacing the internet saying that all the Al Nassr fans were indicating to Ronaldo to not sign the contract and they didn't want him. And in spite of all that, he's continued. He signed an extension with Al Nassr. But if you look at the deal, it's absolutely crazy because he gets, I think, some share in the club. So he owns, I think, about 10 or 15% of the club now. He also gets a set of personal staff 24/7 that will report exclusively to him. He also gets all his airways travel expenses deducted. So he won't have to pay a single penny for all the fuel or the maintenance costs for all his flights and the jet trips that he'll have. And he also makes a lot of money. And his per goal bonus is also insanely high. So it's a it's a golden deal for him. And he's decided to stay at Saudi. He likes it there. The football is pretty good there. They are signing a lot of international stars, so he continues there. And the last major update was from Real Madrid because they have signed yet another superstar in Trent Alexander-Arnold. So now they have
No.
Trent Alexander-Arnold at the back. You've got Jude Bellingham in the center. You've got Kylian Mbappe, Vinicius Junior in the front, and you've got Thibaut Courtois as the goalkeeper. And there are a lot of other stars as well. So this Madrid team is absolutely star-studded now. And
Yeah,
Liverpool,
if they lose
since
again to Barca ever again, I think I would be very disappointed.
yeah, it will be a shock. But it's maybe the case of too many cooks spoil a broth because that's what happened last time. They didn't optimize their attack.
mm,
And the last update that I had, or the last two, was from Liverpool, where since they lost Alexander Arnold, they signed Florian Wirtz from a team in the Bundesliga. I'm not sure which team it was, but he is considered to be Germany's next big thing. And I think this was the most expensive signing of this window, upwards of 130 million, if I'm not wrong. So they've managed to sign him for the
oh,
long term now. And a similar thing happened with Nico Williams. If you remember in the European Cup that happened last year, Euro 2024, Nico Williams was one of the most influential players for Spain, and him and Lamine Yamal were kind of creating magic on the pitch. And
mm,
Nico Williams was keen on signing Barcelona, and Barcelona were keen to sign him, and they would have Nico Williams and Lamine Yamal on both the sides, and that would have been great. But in the end, the deal fell off. There were a few terms that the player and the club didn't agree mutually on, and Bilbao managed to take advantage and they signed him for 10 years. So now Barcelona cannot even approach
oh.
him for the next few years. So they've lost him. It's not that big of a problem because they have some excellent players still. But this was a great chance to reunite Williams and Lamine Yamal, but that has not happened.
So quite a few deals happening in the football world, and I think it's a phase similar to a couple of years back where half the world, all the oldies or mostly past their prime people were moving to Saudi, and
Yeah,
this is I think the second coming, and now a new group of players has reached that phase in their careers. People like
yeah,
Modric, Kevin De Bruyne, all of them are past their prime, so it makes sense. And it's good to see them still racking up money and going
yeah.
to new clubs.
And they're staying in Europe purely because of the World Cup that's coming up next year. They want to stay competitive, play in competitive leagues, and be at their A game for the World Cup. But I won't be surprised if right after the World Cup, all these stars they sign for Saudi or American clubs where they're
Mm.
offered a lot of money and other perks as well.
Yeah, so strategic move from the players, and time will tell if they were really involved with the club or just used them to practice for the World Cup. So I think that pretty much wraps up our episode for this week. It was fun talking after a few days, and I think we covered pretty much everything that we wanted to, despite the time constraints. So well done to both of us.
Yeah,
And I think next week, by the time we record our next episode, we won't have the India versus England test match, but we will have had the uh, race,
that's happening
which
next
is
Sunday.
on.
So there's still
Okay,
a
so
week and a half left.
I think we could convert the next episode into a bit of a special episode. We'll keep you updated on that as well. But for now, we hope you enjoyed this, and uh, thank you for tuning in. And till the next time we meet, stay safe. Signing off is Wade.
Bye bye. See you.